Hello, Mech fans. This is Duncan Fisher. Hold on firmly to your mana potions, fireballs, and familiars, because you are tuning in to your regularly scheduled episode of the First Circuit Podcast.
Picture this. It is late 2019. You're sitting at home playing MechWarrior Online, looking forward to the release of MechWarrior 5. But little do you know, MechWarrior Online is a dying game. I mean, you suspected it for a while, but you weren't quite sure. Now, throughout the next few years, you're gonna see a massive decline in activity and player base, basically everything. But throughout this whole time, there's gonna be one name keeping the game going. And that is our special guest today, Matt Newman. Say hi, Matt.
Hey guys. Love that intro.
Yeah.
Accompanying host today is Old Bob, who I put on mute throughout the intro because he can't behave himself.
Although I can't behave.
Our British person, Biden.
British people just don't behave automatically.
And myself, Ian. And with that, hello and welcome to the First Circuit Podcast, episode 139, where we're gonna talk with Matt Newman. I think mostly about MechWarrior Online in general and fairly little about the immediate future of MechWarrior Online, given that that's a topic that has been talked absolutely to death throughout the past few weeks and months. So I hope you're not coming here looking for this, but instead we're going to try to have some fun. So Matt, I maybe took away a bit too much, but give us a quick intro of who you are and why people should know you or shouldn't know you.
Okay, Matt Newman, worked at Piranha Games for about 16 years now. I started there as a 3D artist and characters, weapons, vehicles, that kind of thing. And then over time, I worked into production roles. And when MechWarrior, the original MechWarrior trailer was being created, I worked on that as well. So the first one you guys saw, I don't know how many years ago, when we were pitching a single player version of the game. So we worked on that. And then when we finally got to do MechWarrior Online, I was in the producer role for the first portion of it. And then eventually, when IGP, when the publisher, Infinite Games Publishing, they had 3 games, all free to play. And MechWarrior was the only one that was kind of like functional and working and stuff like that. And there was a Mech Tactics game too. So they couldn't maintain a publishing company, and then so they went bye-bye. We bought back the publishing rights, and I became the live operations manager. And I've been doing live operations for a heck of a long time now. And live operations kind of encompasses customer support. So I manage the customer support team. Community manager. So I manage community manager, and I do the events, and I have the web team and design team as well. And so I've been involved with the MechWarrior since the very beginning. I know where all the bodies are buried, and but most people know me as the event and sales guy, and that's changing now, like in this, just since getting Daeron on and the new directive from Russ and Piranha Games getting bought by EG7 Group and MechWarrior 5, the work we're doing on that. MechWarrior Online has become is becoming a new thing. It's becoming reborn. So yeah, it's an exciting time for MechWarrior Online fans. MechWarrior fans in general. So that's my background.
I have one question about, you said you worked on the first trailer. Is this the one with the Warhammer blowing up?
Yes.
Wow, that was good. That was
well,
really
I didn't
good.
like personally. I wasn't making it. I was in a production role at that time.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
We were reviewing footage. People were making content, and so we from inception. So like from storyboard straight through to the actual trailer getting released and the teasers that went out beforehand. I don't know if you guys remember those. There's 3 short clips we released leading up to that. And at that time, the game industry was kind of in a bust situation. Like there was an economic collapse and gaming studios were shutting down, and EA was canceling all kinds of games and stuff like that. And it was right before the free-to-play market was coming to North America in a big way, and all this kind of thing. It was a big shakeup, right? And we were trying to get this game made, and people were like, well, that's PC and Xbox only SKU is what we were pitching for the original one. It was a single-player game. It was around the time of Call of Duty mega hit kind of franchises were getting made, and they looked at MechWarrior, probably rightly so, as a niche product, right?
Yeah.
And so not a lot of publishers wanted to touch it if it wasn't going to be on all consoles. But I think that since then, the gaming industry has changed so much, right? It's just only gotten bigger and bigger. And we finally got to, finally getting to put it on console with MechWarrior 5 now. And, MechWarrior Online is what that trailer really helped us make MechWarrior Online.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at that trailer, there's so many things in there that are related to MechWarrior Online. Like you see the launch of the UAV, and it identifies the Jenner and that kind of stuff. And some of the content some of the feature set ended up in MW5. Some of the feature set ended up in MWO. So yeah, it's cool.
It's cool content,
and
actually.
Beyond that, like my relationship with BattleTech and MechWarrior goes all the way back to being, a teenager and going to my buddy's house and them having BattleTech boxes, on the shelf, much like the ones that you have there. And so that's how I got introduced to it. Generally, we had tables and stuff. I was in a punk rock band with them, and so I was playing guitar, but we'd stop and chat and look at mechs, and I was always into drawing and creating art and stuff. And you had the Mad Cat poster up on his wall, and so that's really, really cool. So
what did you play? A lot of tabletop, or it was just you were?
That was something I was exposed to, and I saw it, and I was like, he would tell me about the rule set, but I never played it with him. But I got into gaming, and the first PC I bought was a Pentium 133, and it came with a video card, the Matrox Mystique, which was basically around the same time as Voodoo 2, Voodoo 3 video cards. And it came with MechWarrior 2, I think. Yeah, I might be getting it mixed up now, but it was the Clans one. With that classic intro, and then I played the shit out of that. Played it so much that my first real girlfriend broke up with me, and she's like, "It's me, or MechWarrior," and I'm like, "Get out, lady!" No, it wasn't quite that dramatic, but yeah, she was like, "You game too much," and
jeez.
Yeah, I'm like, "This isn't working out." We're still friends on Facebook, but it's okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm happily married now.
Well, obviously, yeah. Well, it's like, and like usually comes down to the case of like, honey, I gotta play this game. Give me about 2 more hours, and then the whole like sunrise comes up. You're like, oh my god, I've been playing for 10 hours. Holy cow! Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, I'm not quite in that department now. I think I game about 1 to 2 hours a night. 2 hours if I've put in a serious session, 1 hour, and sometimes it's like a half an hour. But that's I don't have kids, so I get up super early. Like this morning I was up at 5:30 a.m. and took my son to hockey practice because it just allowed us to go back now. It's no contact hockey practice, but at least he gets to skate around the rink and stuff.
That's cool. Well, I guess it's just me then. I sit there for hours at a time going, oh my god, where'd the time go?
Do you have kids though?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
so,
see.
Yeah, I got cats.
I
have cats.
Yeah. Cats are furry babies, but
yeah,
they are fairly independent.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, thankfully.
Okay.
I have this discussion with my girlfriend fairly often where I'm like, I'm not gonna start a game for 1 hour. I'm not even gonna bother. Give me more time.
I don't even bother playing for an hour, I guess. I don't know. Okay.
Did you ever get into the tabletop game, or did you stick to the video games?
So the tabletop game side of it, the tabletop gaming I played was actually, funnily enough, was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role-playing game.
Yep. Yeah.
So I was old enough to be around when TMNT was like the first coming of it, and Eastman and Laird and the graphic novels and stuff. So I played TMNT with my friends. I was big into comic books and that kind of stuff. I always saw BattleTech. I always loved BattleTech. I like BattleTech so much. I was like always fascinated with the mechs, right? For me, it's always been about the mechs. They're just so fucking cool. And I literally took a model kit of like a Chevy or something that I had, and it was a plastic model kit, and I kit bashed together a little mech minis. So I was like taking those model kits apart and like trying to make little minis out of them. They're fairly hideous and like covered in glue and stuff like that, but I was fascinated with the mechs. I just never had the actual sit down play BattleTech experience. I have had it since working at the company.
Yeah.
Have play sessions with the David Bradley designers and Mark and various other people where we have BattleTech. I've had BattleTech nights, but not way back then. But I did definitely was aware of it. And then MechWarrior 2 on my first computer was a big introduction to that universe.
It was a big introduction for a lot of people, actually. Like everyone I talked to, it's like, yeah, I played MechWarrior 2, and then they got him into the BattleTech universe and the lore and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, true.
Yeah.
Did you also keep up to date with all of the lighter MechWarrior titles?
No, actually I didn't. So I'm also like I'm a big nerd, so I was big into Star Wars. And so a lot of my gaming time went to that afterwards. Like Jedi Knights was a game that I got into. Quake. So the other MechWarrior titles, I have to admit, I didn't own them. I was exposed to them later on in my career when we have them at work and you can play them and access them there, and you can watch people play them, and you can now watch everything on YouTube or watch people stream stuff. So you can consume these games in different ways now than you could back then. But I wasn't like I didn't get to have the full progression of this to this to this to this. I will say though, I did play Crescent Hawk's Inception.
Oh yeah.
So that was an experience I did have. I wasn't very good at it, but it was like demo discs, like back in the day, 3.5 inch floppies, and so you would collect those as a kid, and you would load up every game you could get on them.
Yeah.
PC Gamer subscriptions used to come with CD-ROM demos, stuff like that, and so I literally had like stacks and stacks of those things. I think that I ended up taking them into the office and putting them in the Piranha Games archive just because I'd held on to them forever, and I just felt like that was an appropriate place to put them as a resource for everyone else to enjoy and stuff.
Oh, so, definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
I will say another like weird thing is like being a kid, having been exposed to that stuff and always wanting to do art and always wanting to like that stuff. The fact that I get to work on MechWarrior now is for me is like a huge thing. Like I love it. And I can also remember the day I came home from school and seeing the cover of the PC Gamer magazine where it had Duke Nukem Forever on it. Like, and that was a long flipping time ago, and like being like, oh, like just looking through it was like an Unreal powered engine game, and like reading the whole article and stuff and just absorbing it. And then it eventually just didn't come out, and then 14 years later I get to work at the studio that ended up shipping fucking Duke Nukem Forever. Crazy, man. It's crazy. It's just one of those things where you're like, oh, okay, wow, that's weird.
True. Yeah, like I remember actually getting those too, like all the different discs and all that kind of stuff. Also from the PC magazine, used to actually type in the code for the game itself, and basically like this is back in the day when the Commodore 64s were out. In order to play the game, you had to type in BASIC the whole game itself. It used to take like hours to type in, and you get to play like helicopter pickup or something like that. Come over, pick up a guy, go drop him off and everything. And that's what it used to be way back then. But yeah,
I didn't get that far. I didn't. Like, is this Amiga times or when was this?
Oh, this is like... way back time. This is like back in Stone Age type thing of the computers. But yeah, it was fun though, and then getting the discs like you talked about, it was a lot of fun. It was.
I think we're like around the same age, old Bob.
Probably so.
Yeah, I'm 47 this year.
Yeah. I'm about the same age. Yeah.
Right on.
I can't say my age because People,
Yeah.
I want to leave people guessing.
I'm a
Oh,
little
fuck
surprised that your beard is a little grayer, oh Bob.
I've got grays.
But yeah.
He's got more hair than me, though.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So when are we going to get to these hard-hitting questions?
Well,
I feel like you guys are just kind of like softening me up for the actual attack here.
Oh no.
maybe.
Well, okay, yeah.
But for now,
Let's talk about MWO.
if you want, we could. However, ideally, I would like to talk about your career a bit before MechWarrior Online.
Oh, okay, sure.
Just kind of learn where you come from, what's your education, how did you get into contact with PGI and get eventually hired,
Cool. All right.
those kind of things.
All right. So, like I said, was always into art. So I had sketchbooks full of, cyberpunks and, just all kinds of like robots and tanks and that kind of stuff. So I loved drawing that stuff when I was a kid. All my report cards reflected on the fact that I did not pay attention in class and that I was fantasizing and drawing cities getting blown up and shit like that. So it was obvious. It was not obvious to them, but my initial kind of goal was to be a comic book artist, and I love drawing comic books, doing concept art and stuff like that. And then I got into skateboarding in high school, and skateboarding was a huge part of my life. I ended up, the town that I lived in got a skate park, ended up working at the skate park. And so after high school, I was just kind of bumming around, skateboarding, working in the skateboarding industry, and gaming. And that was it, and partying, right, with your friends.
Yeah.
And so it was a pretty good life. My dad was, semi-supportive. My mom was pretty supportive, but they were like, you do got to figure your shit out at some point. And then I got an opportunity through my job to move from Ontario to Vancouver, BC, to work at the skateboard distribution warehouse here. And so I was like, yeah, BC is wicked, so let's do that. When I moved out here, I knew no one. I had friends who were out here, but I didn't have a lot of money because I was, renting my first place and working in a warehouse. And I did have my Pentium 133 and I did have my games, but I also, for the first time then, got the internet. So when I moved out here, I got the internet, and then my buddy sent me a disc with pirated software on it, and he sent me this thing called Flash. And so I got big time into Flash. I think it was around Flash 2 or Flash 3.
Yeah.
And I could make art, but I could also make moving art. So now I could make games. Like I said, I was also in a punk rock band, so I was into music. And then, you get crappy webcams, and you could do stuff like record a little video, bring it into Flash, add some sound effects, do all these things. So I started making shitty little Flash games and really digging that, along with going and skateboarding with my, the skateboard community out here, friends I was making out here, doing photography, that kind of stuff. And eventually I learned about this program called New Media at Vancouver Film School. And so New Media was basically around the internet was growing around that time. It was before the bust, before the big internet.com bust. And so it was a growing thing. And I was like, I think this is what I want to do. Like, I love making Flash stuff. I was making Flash websites for video game or for skateboard brands. So I made one for the Red Dragon skateboard website. I made one for Momentum Wheels, because these are all guys that I knew from working in the skateboarding industry who were like, yo, shit, you can make a website? This is awesome. I showed them Flash, and they were like, oh, it's so cool. Flash intros were like the thing, right?
Yeah. So
it had, spinning pictures and sound effects and little, QuickTime videos on their website and stuff like that. So I made some websites, and then I learned about the New Media program at Vancouver Film School. And I'm like, this is the shit. I got to go take this. It's like HTML, Macromedia Director, which people used to make CD-ROMs, and Photoshop and 3ds Max and MIDI and Pro Tools and Premiere and After Effects and Flash as well. So I was like, this is all the shit I want to learn about. And so I did. I went to Vancouver Film School, and then what happened was in the 3D portion, there's 3ds Max, started learning that, and everything else just fell away instantly. And all I gave a fuck about was video games at that point. Or sorry, it was making 3D shit. And then after then, I got a job in the gaming or in the web industry. And I was like, web industry is great and everything, but I really want to work in games. And so I made 3D at night, and I worked in the web industry during the day. And then I got my first gig at, I made weapons for Shadow Ops Red Mercury, which was an original Xbox title with a studio in Seattle. So I worked freelance from home doing that. And it was a struggle. There wasn't a lot of money to be made. I was getting paid per weapon. And so it was tough. And then I got hired at Piranha Games, and that was like 16 years ago. And I started making weapons and characters for a lot of the games that they were making back then. And then that kind of leads into, you know, getting into design, getting into production. So, and then eventually up to the point where I got to work on MechWarrior, and now here I am talking to you guys. Yada, yada, yada. I'm talking to you.
So do you have any experience for people who kind of want to start out nowadays in the video game industry, or is this just completely off your level of knowledge?
No, I think that if you want to start in the video game industry nowadays, it is so much easier because you have access to so much free open source software and so much free open source learning and so many communities. When I started thinking about working in the gaming industry, it seemed like an impossible dream. Now you can just start your own independent game company if you have, you know, the ability to survive off of whatever means you have and be an independent game developer. Or you can go into a disciplined area of being like a 3D artist. I'm huge into Blender right now. Blender is open source software, and it's free. And there's some really, really cool things. Like I remember learning about Blender initially, and I was like a 3ds Max guy, and then I tried it, and I was like, oh, this program sucks. Like it's nothing like 3ds Max. I can't even try and learn this because it's just completely backwards to what I was used to. If you look at Blender now, 3ds Max is like trying to keep up with them. So it's they've completely flipped the script on them, and I just love the Blender community now and learning those kinds of things with that stuff. And there's some really, really smart people who are making plugins for it, and I bought some plugins and bought some assets and stuff. So it's got this really cool ecosystem. And Unreal Engine, which is the engine of choice now in Piranha Games for its for MechWarrior 5. We went with CryEngine for MWO because it was the obvious choice back then. But MechWarrior, like Unreal Engine now, has become like the de facto standard, next to Unity or some custom, in-house developed software. For most independent studios, it's either Unity or Unreal. And I see Blender really getting inroads in that community as well, as being like it's open source 3D. Like so many people before, it's like, okay, if I wanted to work in 3D, I either had to pay for Max or pirate it, right? And when I first got into it, I started paying for it, and that was why it was such a big struggle, because I was just making weapons for as an outsourcing guy, and I was barely making enough to cover my Max license, so it's pretty rough. But now with Blender, it's like you can make money with that software, and it's free, and Unreal's free. I mean, it has a license agreement attached to it, but it's getting to the point of selling your game is essentially just your hours put in. And I think that's a really, really cool space to be in if you want to learn to develop games.
I got a question. Do you find that the engine that MechWarrior uses now is more limited than what obviously like Unreal is, basically, as far as like as far as what you can do with it?
That's
or what you
tough.
want to do
with
it,
I mean, every engine is going to have its pluses and minuses.
Mhm.
And I think that you have to choose the engine that is right for your project.
Yeah.
And when we made MWO, CryEngine was the perfect choice. It just made the most sense.
Mhm.
And we poured hundreds of thousands of programming man hours into that engine to bring it to the point where it is with MWO.
Mhm.
So much so that, when we considered doing, engine upgrades with the next version of CryEngine to get this or that, we were like, well, yeah, but we would have to redo this piece that we customized for the engine, like specifically the networking code.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but CryEngine, when we got it, was not server authoritative, and server authoritative is essential to prevent hacking.
Mm.
Yeah.
If you've got client-side authoritative code, that just means that I can inject whatever I want into the game and make everybody else die, right?
Mhm.
It's the server authoritative networking is essential for free-to-play games, essential for any kind of security that you need to have. So we made that. We had some very smart engineers at our company that did that. And then not only that, they went on to add to it to have host state rewind and things like that. These are not easy programming tasks at all, because they have to understand time travel in milliseconds and animation. And in it's the server is solving problems and sending messages with timestamps, and they have to understand how to coordinate all that in order to get the best possible networking code. And there's so many, different connections and connection types, and just lots of places where the internet can be really behave wonky and stuff, and just try and get that so that the code it's fast enough but accurate enough.
Yeah.
It's a very, very fine balancing act.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because it's CryEngine doesn't mean it's working on factory settings. It's been modified so much now, it's
Yeah.
not even the same machine it was at the start.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like you go, okay, if you're a company who's put X amount of engineering resources into a code base, and then someone says, let's upgrade the engine, you go, well, what are we throwing away when we upgrade this engine? Or what are the number of bugs and issues that we're going to have to tackle in order to actually get it back to just where we were before we can take advantage of this new feature that they've included in this engine drop? So it's a lot of weighing of pros and cons in those situations.
Yeah, from a technical standpoint, I would be really interested what Star Citizen does, where they fork their own version of CryEngine and then update the engine every time the official CryEngine does an update. I can imagine that's a lot of coordination effort in there.
Yeah, a lot of resources required, right? And they started around the same time we did. I mean, they were MWO, and I think it was like a year later they did their Kickstarter. Was that?
Yeah, I don't. I
It was around the same time, and I remember MWO had been in open beta.
It was open
or no,
beta
closed
for
beta, and then open beta,
Yeah.
and then CryEngine came around, and then it was huge. It was a massive success on Kickstarter, and continues to be a massive success in terms of fundraising.
Yeah, it's not even done yet, but it's still, it's still on Kickstarter.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, in terms of fundraising, they've got a huge amount of backers. They've got a huge amount of invested community that is willing to commit to that dream that they've put forward, right? And so that's a big deal, right?
Star Citizen Kickstarter was back 2012, and MWO started being announced 2013 or so. So
right.
yeah,
So we didn't really do a Kickstarter. We did the Founders Program.
Yeah.
Kickstarter was a thing, and honestly, they're pretty different. I've seen companies do founders programs since. I don't know if we were the first, but we were certainly in the first wave of founders types programs. And I think that Rogue Agent or whatever it is, they did a founders program recently where they had early release founders. They was on the Epic Games Store, and I was like, oh, I'm going to check this out. And they had 3 tiers of founders that you could buy in, and you could get different content based on that and stuff. So
So bring it back to you, Matt, at least these early days of MWO, I think you mentioned you were a producer.
Yeah,
for the game?
yeah.
What did you dabble in? Like, what parts of the game sort of have the handprints of Matt left over nowadays?
So initially, we looked at what the free-to-play market was doing, right? So we looked at the successes in the free-to-play market, and we tried to say what is it, the lessons we can learn from those. So I went big into League of Legends, and
Okay.
other people went big into World of Tanks. And I would say that we probably went the World of Tanks model as the best path for
Mhm.
MWO development in terms of that kind of thing. And then we also brought in some learnings from different areas. But free to play in North America was still in its infancy at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most free to play games were considered not good, and they were developed outside of North America. And then we were probably one of the first studios to start digging into free to play and to launch a free to play title. I'm not sure. I'm sure someone out there is going to go like, "No, you weren't the first." Like, I'm just saying we're among
Yeah.
the actual
So
initial
to make
wave.
the question more direct, so what did you do as a producer, in the early
Sure.
times?
So you're identifying the feature set. So you work with design, and design is saying we want a game to be like this. And so it was at the time Brian Ekman was design director, creative director of the studio, and Paul and some other key people, David Bradley, probably people I'm forgetting. And then you have your technical director, and then you've got your publisher, and you're really, as a producer, you're trying to coordinate and gain an understanding of what it is you're trying to make, and then try and form a roadmap.
Okay.
Trying to form. So
Like,
the
do you
roadmap
have to act
that
as a bridge between all the other different people, like to talk
yeah,
about them and all their interests?
you act as somewhat as a bridge. I mean, producers at different companies can do different things, right? And
Yeah.
so at Piranha Games, as a producer, I liaised a lot with publisher. So whenever there was like any form of coordination between PGI and IGP, I was reaching out. I was part of the email chains. I was scheduling meetings. I was setting itineraries for the meeting. I was delivering meeting notes. I was taking those meeting notes and then converting them into tasks for the team, high level tasks that then got broken down further by technical directors and programming directors and stuff like that. So you're very much a big picture person, and then your leads go down into the task level, and then they try and coordinate those tasks with their team. So I worked with the technical director, I worked with the lead programmer, I worked with the art director, and then if you go way back, I was at that time also doing some community management outreach stuff. We had Garth as community manager when we first started, and Garth was QA on Duke Nukem Forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there's a lot of these, the studio just went from Duke Nukem Forever to move over to working on MWO, and we had with Duke Nukem Forever, we had all this multiplayer experience from the studio that was hired on specifically for Duke Nukem Forever. So we were very, very lucky in the talent set that we had. Very, very intelligent programmers that we had got when we did Duke Nukem Forever really lined us up for doing MechWarrior Online. So it was a pleasure to work with them on both projects, but it was really interesting to take on those challenges that we had to face initially with like planning MWO, things that we'd never done before, like server architecture. Like just getting into rooms with programmers going, well, we're going to need server authentication. We're going to need a way to manage people logging in. So there's got to be a login thing. And so you end up with all these diagrams that they make on, things with like flow charts of like, this is the server, this is the database, this is the schema for the database, this is like how we manage the traffic, this is the security layer, this is, storage, this is transactions route, this is the website, like it's all interlinked and all interworking and stuff like that. So it's no small feat. Like there's so many things that people so much work and hours that go into making a game of that scope. that, you know, we were very, very lucky to have an IP at MechWarrior Online that had a big fan base that was willing to support us and willing to like grow with us as a community. And yeah, I've just really, really appreciative of that.
All right. You said you wanted a little bit of heat, so here's my cynical answer to
All
that,
right,
which
here
is
we
you
go.
did.
Yeah.
You're
Bring
responsible
it.
for communicating with IGP, you know, the publisher, and so
Yes.
obviously it was your job to
Wait,
hear
wait,
from
wait.
the
Can I
publisher
predict this?
above.
Gold Mechs? Is this Gold
Yes.
Mechs?
Gold Mechs.
So you had to hear from the publisher and bring it down to everyone else and say, "All right, we have to make gold mechs. This is the compromise."
$500
Yeah, I
Gold
mean,
Mechs.
well, fuck, right? It's like a business decision, and you kind of, at the time, I read the book, The Curve, and you know, Nine Inch Nails put out an album, and he put out eight songs for free or 9 songs for free. Then he put out the full 16 song album for $16, and then he put out a signed vinyl with poster with this with that for this much. So the curve is basically
It's a
people's
hockey stick
willingness to
model.
purchase something, like, and free is the door that you get in. And in the free to play market, it's like, hey, it's a free game. The charge, the price of admission is installing it, signing up and installing the game.
Yeah.
So your goal is to maximize the amount of people in your game, and then to convert them into people who want to spend money on your game, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of free to
It's
play.
a very early day attempt to try and get the whales, and it's
Yeah,
equivalent to
I mean,
like a collector's edition. It's just
yeah,
yeah,
it
an
is.
imp-
It is that. It is that, and so was clearly aimed at the whales, and there was some whales in MWO at the time, and there's still, I'm sure there still is. I mean, people were like, hell yeah, I want a gold mech. And like when we first put it out, it was $250 for a gold mech, right?
No, it's 500
And-
for the Dashi, I think it is.
Was it
So
500?
it's-
Okay, so it was $500
It's
for a gold mech.
500 total, but you get the Marauder,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Massacre collection, so effectively
I will say
260.
this. The idea did not originate in Piranha Games. Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. That's why I brought it up, because you had to
Yeah.
take the word from up high from the publisher.
you know, you've got all these things happening in free to play. You're looking at other games, what they're doing, and you see them selling. It's like what happened is like Horse Armor in Oblivion happened then, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
There was all kinds of North American studios stumbling into the free to play space and trying shit, and then you
See what
learn
happens.
lessons from trying shit. I think so. Yeah, okay. The gold mechs were $500, and then the reason I said they're $250 is because the Massacre pack was $250 at the top tier, and eventually we just said no, this is included when you buy a gold mech. So yeah, I think that was definitely a learning experience for PGI, and we never did it again. What I think the biggest mistake was that we took the most popular selling one, which was the gold Mad Cat, and stopped selling it. And like tried to create some sense of artificial scarcity by stopping selling the actual Mad Cat. So it was like, sold out. The like few left or whatever, trying to drive demand. And again, a lot of these directives were coming from IGP. We want to try and do this. We want to try and do that.
Yeah.
I will say, my ideas were a lot tamer than that. Here's an example of one of the ideas that I was trying to experiment with in the beginning days of MWO is the Hunchback Gridiron. There's 2 versions of the Hunchback Gridiron. The regular hero and then the limited edition one. The limited edition one came with a cockpit item that was unique, which was the cheerleader. So that was my idea. And so it was relatively harmless, right? Like it was an MC purchase, and it was like, you can have the hero mech for the standard hero price, or for like a little bit more, you can get this limited edition cockpit item. So those are the directions I always felt that we should take. Is like this the bonus exclusive item that was just a little bit more.
Yeah.
And we saw a reflection of that in sales, where some people were like, I don't need a stupid cockpit item. I don't need a cheerleader or whatever, right? And then so they just bought whatever one they wanted. But there was the Founders Pack, and then Phoenix. And Phoenix, I think we made a mistake in making that pack go away.
I actually liked the
Phoenix.
Phoenix. It was a good one, actually. It was a good
Yeah,
one.
it was. We tried different things there with the pre-order pack in terms of having reinforcements come in a little bit later on with the Wolverine, and what was the other mech? Wolverine and something. Griffin.
Yeah, the Griffin.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I actually like getting the paint jobs like of each different house that you have. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, there was some really, really cool stuff. We did some really, really cool stuff, and we're still doing some really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
We're trying to, but there was a lot of having been with it since the very beginning. It is definitely a learning experience for a studio to go through that and to go, be trying to look at what other people are doing, but also forge your own path at the same time.
Yeah.
So before we move on to maybe current day sales and stuff, like for me, the main thing with the golden mechs, not dwelling on too long, but there was a line in there: take part of Operation Revival. I think that was the one thing that really pissed me off at the time, because for me it sounded like some kind of single player or story driven content was coming to MechWarrior Online, and that just never happened. And that's where I got my hatred for the golden mechs from.
Yeah, that's fair. Having worked with the marketing side of things as well, you have to be careful, and I've made some mistakes myself. The words that you use when marketing something can take on different meaning to different people.
Yeah.
And clarity in marketing is very, very important. And I fucked up too. Like I think I talked about this in a previous podcast, but I did I created a fear of missing out with a tweet leading up to Mechcon, because we had the Warhammer 2C coming out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Available for pre-order.
Yeah.
And I said, get the mech, or you might regret it after Mechcon. And what I was trying to allude to was the fact that there was going to be a Warhammer 2C given away for free. That was going to be the bonus mech on December 27th or whenever the day was. You play that day and you got 2 free mechs, Warhammer, and I think Warhammer 2C and some other mech. I can't remember what it was. They have their really cool red and gold paint jobs.
Yeah.
I was trying to allude to something that they weren't aware of. And I was also head down working on Mechcon. Part of my job was creating Mechcon, so I was responsible for making sure that all the computers were. Well, I wasn't physically responsible for making sure all the computers were ready. I was in charge of the overall plan of the event.
Yeah.
And so I was also in charge of marketing the event, in charge of ticket sales for that. So you wear so many hats and you make a mistake like that. And then it wasn't until Mechcon that, oh man, I forget the guy's name, came out to me and he's like, dude, you fucked up. You said this thing and people don't know what you're like. I created the fear of missing out without letting people know what they were missing out on.
Yes.
And it drove sales, but it also drove anxiety, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened was I looked at it and I read the thread and I'm like, oh shit, I fucked up. I'm like, guys, I'm so sorry. Like, you can always cancel your pre-order. I know, like, this is what I was trying to allude to. I was trying to allude to the free mech that was coming out, and you might want to collect the whole set or whatever. Like, so you might want to pre-order this. But yeah, it was a mistake. And I think you can make mistakes, but you have to own your mistakes. You have to try and make right on your mistakes, and you have to offer a solution to the community. And what we did do was, like, anyone who was early adopter, there was an extra mech. So I talked to design and I'm like, is there another variant we can throw in for being an early adopter? And we did that. We extended the early adopter deadline to the end of December. We said anybody who bought it and regrets it, just contact customer support and we'll give you a full refund. And it's still the same now. Like, if you pre-ordered the Striker pack and you want a full refund before it ships, just contact customer support. Like, we're not interested in giving you buyer's remorse. And even with that, like, I know quirks are a big deal in the game, and coming up, what we've done is we've extended the early adopters to be a month after the pack ships, so that you can wait until the pack ships.
Yeah.
See, have it come out, have it be in the game. And I'm going to throw some cool events that is like, if you have these mechs, you're going to get some cool shit in the first month of the mechs coming out.
We actually
I want to
on
drive purchases, but at the same time, I also don't want to drive anxiety. I don't want people to regret their purchase decisions, because ultimately my job is to sell to you, but not to make you feel shitty. I want you to be happy with your purchases. So
Yeah, we recently, like, last podcast when we were covering the striker pack, actually had this thing with the phrasing it and it coming off a bit awkwardly in regards to quirks, because in the FAQ it says something along the lines of just oh, there's no quirks right now, there might be balance changes in the future, we might tune them after they come out. And the initial impression a few people get from that is sort of, oh, they'll come out with no quirks, but the dragon needs its survival quirks.
yeah, no, they're gonna come out with quirks, and our goal is to lock those down beforehand. So we just, like, after we went through the team creating the striker pack based off the feedback on the forums. So we took everyone's feedback and we throw it in a big pile. Daeron's responsible for doing that, and then we get together as a development team. It's myself, Daeron, like development team, but it's more like the pack planning team. Daeron, Chris Lowry, David Bradley, Mark Nicholson, Nico, I can't say his last name because I don't remember it, and Alexander Iglesias. And if you don't know those 5 names, you should know them, because those are the guys, aside from Russ and Paul and some of these other guys, those are the people that are diehard fucking BattleTech MechWarrior fans. Like, they live and breathe this shit. When they're as excited as you guys are about that we're reviving and working on MWO right now, they're super happy. They've been super happy working on MW5, because that is something else that is like very important and special to them. But coming back to MechWarrior Online is something they're very excited to do as well. So those guys, we discuss these things. We discuss player perception. We discuss issues around, like, and it gets heated, right? Because we're trying to, as much as possible, add something new to the game when we've got a shit ton of content in the game, right? And you're like, well, can you make this the best dragon ever and without upsetting people, or can it be this way or that way? Like, people will say things like, oh, well, there's another mecha in the game that does just that, right? I'm like, well, fine, there's another mecha in the game that does just that, but there's not another dragon in the game that does just that. So maybe there's diehard dragon fans out there, and certainly there are numbers in the forum threads indicated that. So we debate a lot.
To obviously return to my point, at least, about perception, is that it might be an idea to look over the FAQ, at least the bit regarding quirks. Obviously, you're planning perhaps to release quirks and future packs alongside. So, but as it is, the current phrasing,
we do want to get the quirks out before it ships.
But just my clear point is just simply, the current phrasing can lead people astray, because it was written with a sort of a mindset where the game was continuously having like balance passes and changes, and that came off very different when the game is just slowly being revived as it is right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is our intention this year. We're doing a weapon paths for the next patch, and I was tweaking some numbers the other day, so numbers are getting tweaked, and that affects mechs and affects every loadout, right? And then when we start doing the scale pass on the mechs, that's going to affect the mechs and mobility. And like, we're, as much as you can say like, oh yeah, that's like, it's misleading. I don't want people to get the impression that the game is going to be static, that what you ship is going to be what you get. Like, these things are subject to change. And
and that phrasing somewhat I prefer, just because it has to refer to overall game balance. It's just like, we might give you some early stats. It might change upon release or after release. It's all subject to change.
Yeah. So like the quirks you get now may not be as effective, or based on weapon value changes. You're like, oh, that quirk is great right now, but all of a sudden that weapon changes. Is that quirk so great? We'll see, right?
in that sense, a bit of instant feedback. Prolonging the time for the early bird adopter is a really good move, and one
Yeah.
we fully support.
Yeah, that's a
And
great idea.
if you can keep this going for the future packs, we're going to be quite happy with it.
Yeah, I think that whenever we make a step and we get a really positive response from the community, we go, oh, okay, we did something right there. You know, you have to listen to the community and go like, yeah, this is. I talk to Daeron every day, and he's like, people are super stoked that we did that. Like, it's communication wasn't super clear around it because it's kind of like, what date is what? Like, what's going on here? And it was a change, a definite change in previous packs.
I had to check my calendar before going. Wait, it's after. Ooh.
Yeah, we can and will be more clear about it of saying like you have a month. Like when it comes down to shipping the pack, it's going to be, hey guys, get excited, the pack's coming. By the way, when it comes out, you're going to have a month of early adopters still available, so you can still get these cool bolt-ons. You can still get that 200 extra GSP, and you can still get this hanging cockpit item with a 5% C-bill boost. So all three of those perks will be available for a full month after the pack ships. So you can wait and see people's TTB's loadouts or whatever, or Bearduel or whoever it is that you go to get your intel on, is this mech hot or is it not? Like, so
Yeah.
Ultimately all mechs are hot if you overheat them, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, great
Yes,
idea.
yes.
I love that idea because a lot of times, I mean, I had some buyers like remorse with different mechs that are out there. I'm like, why in the hell did I get that? It was
Can I guess one? The Kodiak?
No, it was Incubus.
Incubus?
I got the Incubus. I'm like, what the hell did I buy? And so
Did you
basically,
still buy that one, or did you get it from Bombardier?
No, actually, this is before, like this is before we got.
I think
before your
shield
shield times.
Yeah,
I think the Kodiak was one that we definitely heard caught some flack on with, in terms of like the impression was that we'd sell it, it would be OP, and then we'd nerf it when it was going for MC or C bills or something like that.
Yes, that was what happened. So yeah, it was really strong. Everyone's using it, and then by the time it comes out, it's been nerfed down, and it's just like, oh, yeah,
it's the free version.
Yeah, it's quite a roller coaster of emotions, really, with that pack.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a tough thing when you are selling something and you do have to balance it at the same time. Like it's there's never been a malicious kind of like, haha, we're gonna nerf something when it's free. Like that's never been even it's always been about like, okay, is this thing OP or not?
Yeah, it had obviously been kind of dominating the game for a couple of months. It's like, okay, we need to tone it down a bit, but in a couple of months,
definitely
obviously,
see how people will get that impression though, because it's like it literally, the schedule for when it comes out for free is 3 months later, right?
Yeah, a lot of people just waited, but yeah, you want to see the quirks, but now since we actually have the quirks beforehand, it's even better.
Yep, and if you buy this pack, you get the standard version for free as well to keep or sell for C-bills, whatever you want to do, and have the extra mech bay open.
All right, so that is intentional that you're getting the same mech twice.
Yeah, it is intentional, and it's because we want the value to be very obvious in the pack. It may become your favorite mech, and you may want 2 of them, or it may just become a source of C-bills and mech bay for you. And either way, I think it's a decent value in the pack.
A question would be in my head a little is if you offered a different Dragon or Thunderbolt variant, like ones that are less commonly picked. They can still be sold for C-bills, but they offer more gameplay variety.
Yeah. So I think that with the team that we have right now, we're offering the same one. We may consider doing that in the future. I think most packs moving forward will be of the smaller type. I think even if it is, like I want to keep the price points more reasonable. I believe that the monthly $70 pack is troublesome. Like if you're going for the collector's tier, I think it's troublesome. But I do also want to have enough value created in these packs to be able to make new mechs. So we have a list of mechs we would like to add to the game still, and I'm sure that everybody out there does. Like everybody would love to see X mech,
I think
And
to give my impression a little bit, when you do the big ultimate packs, you have to make like 5 or 6 variants, a lot of variants, and
yeah,
it's really hard, particularly with so many mechs in the game, to
some
make all
mechs
of
don't
those.
even have variants,
Yeah.
that many variants. So we have to make up
Whereas,
variants.
like, I like mechs like the Charger, where you only actually have 4 variants because each of those can be a unique, distinct flavor of Charger without having to go, oh, all right, we need to make like 3 more flavors of Charger, and there's so many other mechs in the game, and it's really hard to balance when you're making 7 compared
Yeah.
to 4.
Yeah, and you've got your, what was it? So the 3 standard variants, the hero, and then the reinforcements was like our formula for the last X amount of mech packs, right? Sometimes we wouldn't have reinforcements just because it's like almost next impossible on some mechs.
Yeah.
And it was like, if you're then we've got the standard collector's ultimate edition. And so you could just get the standard pack and then get the hero. You could get the standard pack and get the collectors.